Hello, my name is Danarvis Blaine.
Hi, my name is Trinity.
Hey, my name is Emily.
And you're listening to
And you are listening to.
And you're listening to Teens in Quarantine.
Hello, my name is Ameera, and joining me is.
My name is Danarvis Blaine Jr.
And today we will be talking about prison reform.
So, when it comes to prison, the hardest part I've seen with like people in my family or people that I know is their life, not only in prison but also their life after prison. So when most people get out of jail, the first thing is like getting back on their feet. So getting a job, maybe moving in with some family members, etc., to like help them out. The thing is that even the most minor charge on your record that led to you being in prison is automatically like takes away the chance of you being able to get a job, which on top of that, now that you don't have a job, you're not able to like contribute for yourself. So you can't pay for you can't pay for things, you can't support yourself and those around you. And then that on top of that contributes to the poverty rate, since you're broke. And with prison, I'm not saying it should always be a clean slate once you leave, but if you're not a repeat offender, it shouldn't really hold you down as much, especially on minor charges.
Yes, this system tends, by system I mean like our government tends to oppress prisoners and those who have been in the prison system before. And it's really upsetting to see, because if you're an offender for a minor charge, then you still have you're still kind of facing the world after prison the same way that somebody with a major charge will after they get out. And it's really upsetting to see, because you're just set up for failure. Jobs don't want to hire you, which means you can't make money, which leads to homelessness, poverty. And from that point on, it's extremely hard to be successful or even make it after prison. And instead of punishing people after they've already spent time, you should try, and by you I mean the government, should try to help prisoners who just got out to make a life for themselves so that they can do better than what they had before and what they were facing in prison itself.
Yeah, and also another point is like about how the prison system, like I'm no judge, so I don't know how all this works, but it feels like certain sentences are very overkill, if I should say. Like sometimes minor charges can lead to some people getting like 10 years. I don't know. I've seen a few examples of it, but it is very odd that how quick the judicial system is to quickly basically shave years off of a person's life. And
I completely agree with that statement. We've seen repeatedly, time after time, how a jury and the system, typically those who are white people in power, often punish people of color compared to the average white American, and seeing the difference in sentence lengths from any person of color compared to typically a white male, but also all white people seem to get a fair chance within a court of law. And it's really upsetting to see, because let's say, for instance, marijuana charges, the difference in punishment from a Black American compared to a white American, or any person of color for that matter, and seeing the length of a sentence for such a minor charge and how your life is affected after that charge. It was really hard to see, especially seeing people of color, instead of following the innocent until proven guilty, it seems as though our judicial system is more insistent on you being guilty before you have to be proven innocent, and you start off as guilty. So yeah, that's what I've noticed personally. How about you, Danarvis?
I have noticed that people that are white Americans tend to get a very slap on the hand when it comes to their sentences. A big example I've noticed over the last year was Nicholas Cruz, and if you don't know who that is, I am pretty sure that was the one involved with the Parkland shooting in Florida, that most people are familiar with. During research into it, I noticed that he hasn't been convicted yet. He is in custody, but his trial was on delay for quite some time due to COVID. But it's very odd how it took him this long to be convicted, where it's a massacre that the entire nation, has like noticed, and there's clear evidence of what took place there. And unlike most other people, someone who is not a white American, they probably won't even make it to their court, due to how the police treats people of color.
I completely agree. It seems as though this is just another way to systemically oppress people of color is through a jury and through law. I've noticed time and time again the difference between there's similarities in crimes, but noticing the differences between sentences and treatment. Noticing how recently people who are in law themselves, such as police officers, have gotten away with an immense amount of crimes towards people of color. But you see minor crimes being committed by typically minorities, and the sentences are longer, and the treatment by police force and the jury is brutal. And it's just another way to oppress minorities and people of color overall. And that is a huge problem because you're seeing racism within something that is very particular and something that is meant to be these are laws in place. It's meant to apply to all people and not just specifically oppress certain groups and allowing white Americans, as usual, to get away with a slap on the wrist, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Also, moving to another point that I've noticed is I haven't researched too much into this one, but it was discussed back when I was in school, before all like COVID and everything. But it was about like the school to prison pipeline, about how certain things in school could easily land you in prison, which is very, I think, really way out of whack, if I should say. Like certain things, like how quick a school is to send one of their own students to get them arrested, rather than getting to the bottom of certain scenarios or handling it in their own way, is very odd to me. Which is why we had like certain shows like Beyond Scared Straight, which is like, where they showed like delinquents that the behavior they have has a punishment. But it's very weird that instead of like trying to reform these kids, you traumatize them, and you probably even add on to the behavior even more by sending them to a prison at the age of 15 to 18, when in reality most of their offenses were something petty, such as like petty theft or fighting. And it's just really weird how school to prison can have a connection at times.
Yeah, and you see those same similarities within the school to pipeline, and also the treatment that addicts receive in the system. Whereas if you're found, say you're arrested for drug usage, such as heroin or a hard drug, you're going to prison and you're facing this large sentence instead of getting the help you need. I think that it is not an adequate way to assess addiction is to take you automatically to prison. I think that addicts need help, and if a student is also facing something where they commit a small crime such as petty theft, there are other underlying issues that are occurring that need to be addressed outside of the law and should not be taken to that far of an extent. But I'm going to say thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me, Danarvis, and
No problem.
goodbye.